On what seemed like an ordinary winter night at Borrego Park, a meetup was about to take place that would end in tragedy. Blaze had arranged to spend time with someone he called Sam, a supposed friend he planned to see before returning to university after the holiday season. Here's the troubling part. Nobody in Sam's social circle had any knowledge of who this Blaze person was. While Sam characterized their relationship as friendship, Blaze had never once spoken his name to anyone. Before we dive in, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and enable notifications so you never miss a case. Drop a comment and share which country you're watching from. Your support means more than you know. Let's get started. Even more concerning, Blaze hadn't told a soul about his plans for that particular evening, leaving everyone to wonder what was truly happening. When Blaze's mother and father discovered their son gone the following morning, panic set in immediately, and they would soon discover that this seemingly peaceful evening at the park marked the final moments of their son's life. Born and raised in Orange County, California, Blaze Bernstein entered the world as the child of Gideon and Jean. Two siblings, Jay and Bo, shared his childhood home. Those who encountered Blaze described him as eccentric in the best way possible, perpetually cheerful, radiating positivity, and deeply invested in his many interests. Above everything else, his heart belonged to three pursuits: music, the written word, and culinary arts. Coming from a Jewish household, Blaze found himself navigating significant personal transformations during the period when these events occurred. At just 19 years of age, self-discovery remained an ongoing journey, and navigating those teenage years into early adulthood proves difficult for virtually everyone. Despite these challenges, his life trajectory appeared remarkably positive. His education began at the Orange County School of the Arts, which eventually led him to the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. Despite his deep affection for gastronomy and literary creation, Blaze set his sights on medical studies, the field he ultimately selected for his academic pursuit. His intellectual capabilities were exceptional, and his entire family felt confident that the medical profession would serve as an ideal career destination. As a sophomore during the time period in question, Blaze appeared to be thriving, engaging in activities he cherished alongside individuals he valued. The events began unfolding during the winter months of 2017. With the holiday season approaching and a winter recess underway, Blaze made the cross-country journey from Philadelphia back to California to reunite with loved ones. He reconnected with relatives, dedicated countless hours to preparing meals for friends and family in the kitchen, and thoroughly enjoyed himself. The prospect of spending roughly a week surrounded by family before returning to academic life filled Blaze with tremendous excitement, and the holiday gathering proved idyllic in every way. His entire immediate family assembled to exchange stories and share moments of joy. But time moved quickly, and soon Blaze faced the reality of heading back to campus to commence the upcoming semester. His final departure from his childhood home occurred on January 2, 2018, merely one day following the New Year's celebration. For Blaze, however, this particular date would carry profound significance, as it represented the last occasion anyone would encounter him breathing. Blaze's mother and father didn't grasp immediately that their son had vanished. After all, he was in familiar territory, the very place where he'd grown up. They observed that he'd departed their residence and appeared to have been absent for an extended period. Yet his parents maintained their composure initially. Perhaps he was reconnecting with childhood friends. However, when morning arrived and Jean found herself at a dental appointment, an uncomfortable and persistent concern began gnawing at her mind. Blaze had failed to make contact since the previous evening. Furthermore, Blaze had made a commitment to accompany his mother to that very appointment, yet he never appeared. This behavior was completely out of character for Blaze. He wouldn't simply abandon his parents without explanation. Had something occupied his time, he certainly would have telephoned to inform them so they wouldn't wait unnecessarily. Both Gideon and Jean attempted to reach Blaze repeatedly by phone. Every call went unanswered. The couple rushed home without delay and checked his bedroom. He remained absent, though his possessions were present, specifically his wallet, dental retainers, and eyeglasses. Jean understood that whenever Blaze ventured anywhere, he invariably wore his retainers and brought his wallet along. Consequently, all his personal items remained inside the residence. Yet Blaze himself was nowhere to be found. His circle of friends received calls, but nobody had received any communication from him. He had seemingly evaporated under cover of darkness, leaving his family consumed with worry. The Bernstein family contacted law enforcement without hesitation and filed a missing person report for their 19-year-old son, while relatives and acquaintances attempted to locate any clues, solutions, and details regarding Blaze's whereabouts. Their logical next step became obvious. They accessed Blaze's personal computer and managed to gain entry to Blaze's Snapchat account. Everything appeared ordinary except for a single detail, and this detail would become the investigation's only initial lead. Blaze had transmitted a message to another person. The recipient was a young individual named Sam, and Blaze had provided him with his residential address. This particular name rang no bells with the Bernstein family. This enigmatic person called Sam was unknown to them, yet he appeared to be the final individual in Blaze's company, or at minimum possessed some knowledge about his situation. Blaze's mother and father acted immediately and reached out to Samuel Woodward. They additionally documented the exchange and subsequently delivered it to law enforcement. Gideon conducted the conversation with Woodward, who stated that he collected Blaze from his residence at 11 o'clock in the evening on January 2nd, and the pair traveled to Borrego Park in Lake Forest. At that location, Blaze exited the vehicle and informed Sam that he intended to rendezvous with a different friend, and continued walking along a poorly illuminated pathway before vanishing from sight. Sam attempted to call out toward Blaze, but detected neither sight nor sound. Blaze, inexplicably, simply abandoned Sam at the park. This story was genuinely perplexing. Certain elements of Sam's narrative didn't resonate properly with the Bernstein family. The situation was further complicated by their complete unfamiliarity with Sam, prompting them to question how he became acquainted with Blaze, to which Sam responded that the two had formed a friendship during their time at an Orange County School of the Arts. Law enforcement officials then chose to interview former friends and fellow students from Blaze's past, and the quest for information brought them to Rhea, Blaze's closest companion across many years. Rhea, Blaze, and Sam had all attended classes together at the Orange County School of the Arts. And in direct contradiction to Sam's recollection of events, the investigators discovered through Rhea that Sam and Blaze shared virtually no friendship whatsoever. Rhea described Sam as the classroom's social outcast. His demeanor remained consistently quiet, isolated, standoffish, and, according to her, insane. He and Blaze existed in completely separate worlds. Blaze radiated warmth, happiness, and friendliness toward everyone, while Sam represented the polar opposite. Rhea and additional classmates recalled Sam exhibiting genuinely disturbing behavior. He enjoyed sketching, but his artistic subjects weren't playful cartoon figures or abstract doodles. Sam filled his notebook pages with detailed drawings of guns. His political views leaned extremely conservative, and numerous individuals rejected his perspectives on racial equality. But the central point is, he stood completely apart from others. Everyone familiar with both Blaze and Sam felt absolutely certain that friendship between them was impossible. They scarcely exchanged words at Okiese, and their respective friend groups had no overlap. So what motivated Sam to arrange a meeting with Blaze? And what explained the spontaneous nature of it? When this information combined with Sam's peculiar story of Blaze accompanying him to the park, then departing without explanation, circumstances were becoming increasingly bizarre at a rapid pace. Despite Sam appearing innocent of any wrongdoing at this stage, law enforcement harbored deep suspicions about him, and consequently, Sam became identified as the primary suspect in Blaze's vanishing. After 3 days of Blaze's mysterious disappearance, the search operation commenced. Law enforcement personnel were examining all forested regions, isolated locations, and surrounding zones of the park where Blaze had last been spotted with his so-called friend. Unmanned aerial vehicles hovered above the dense vegetation-covered terrain, and thousands of missing person flyers were being produced and distributed everywhere. The entire community united in the effort to locate Blaze and provide support to the anxious and frightened Bernstein family during this exceptionally difficult period. Law enforcement also questioned Sam, and he continued to claim he had no knowledge of what transpired with Blaze following his disappearance. He essentially reiterated the identical story he had shared with Blaze's parents. Law. Enforcement conducted their searches amid heavy rainfall, and they concentrated their efforts particularly on one specific section in Borrego Park. Despite the rain, visibility remained as adequate as circumstances allowed, yet the investigators couldn't dismiss the intuition that they were on the verge of discovering something, and their instincts proved accurate 8 agonizing days afterward. On January 10, 2018, a law enforcement officer observed something beneath a tree in Borrego Park. It appeared to be an ordinary large tree branch. However, beneath it lay disturbed, excavated soil. The investigators excavated, and within merely a few feet of digging, they uncovered a human corpse, lifeless, frigid, bearing multiple stab wounds. The victim was 19-year-old Blaze Bernstein, except this time, he wasn't displaying his characteristic smile with narrowed eyes. His facial features and body were ice cold, blank, and devoid of life. Blaze had been discovered deceased in a hastily dug grave in the identical park where he'd last been observed with his so-called friend. Positioned near his remains was a damaged cellular phone, and it too belonged to Blaze. Law enforcement, the community members, and Blaze's mother and father were devastated and struggling to accept reality. They had been offering prayers and maintaining hope for Blaze's safe homecoming. But tragically, that moment would never arrive. A post-mortem examination was performed, and the findings were absolutely devastating. Blaze had suffered a knife attack approximately 28 times. The medical examiner, simply observing Blaze's wounds and the frequency of the slashing, recognized that the assault was driven by hatred and rage. This raised the crucial question: what had this 19-year-old done to warrant such a brutal attack? Investigators understood exactly where to obtain all of these explanations, and that source was Sam Woodward. Sam was taken into custody 48 hours following the discovery of Blaze's remains in Borrego Park, and as they interrogated and investigated Sam, they uncovered even more deeply troubling information about him. Samuel Woodward, age 20, commonly referred to as Sam, hailed from Newport Beach, California. He had enrolled at the Orange County School of the Arts, but required withdrawal due to his extreme hostility toward particular young males at the institution. Specifically, the individual was intensely homophobic and made no effort to conceal it. While Sam remained in detention and refused to provide any information about the events at Borrego Park, investigators had no alternative but to conduct their own extensive investigation. Law enforcement examined Sam's entire existence, scrutinizing every detail, and their discoveries truly horrified them to their core. Sam harbored a very sinister secret, and investigators held a firm conviction that this secret was intrinsically connected to his actions against Blaze. Sam actually maintained membership in a cult. He participated in a far-right extremist organization that advocated hate speech, violence, and hostility toward anyone who disagreed with their ideology. The cult was established in 2013 and originated in the southern United States before extending its dangerous influence like a plague to the UK, Canada, Germany, and even certain regions of Europe. The cult earned its reputation as among the most violent movements of the 21st century. This organization essentially aims to dominate the globe, eliminate everyone and everything, and establish something entirely new. It's a concept resembling a new world order, and they desire every person on Earth to embrace their warped, hateful ideology. Their primary targets consist of Jewish individuals as well as those belonging to the LGBT community. Law enforcement discovered that because Sam existed as a social outcast, his sole means of expression became the internet, and during that time he encountered the cult. And within it, he discovered individuals who shared his malevolent and cynical worldview. I understand everyone needs to discover their community or group, but Sam elevated this to an extreme level. Sam participated in these gatherings called hate camps, where cult members receive essential training to become violent and aggressive, and are fundamentally mentored by individuals to become disruptors of peace. For the cult, whenever a member attacked or ended the life of someone from a minority group, different ethnic background, or alternative sexuality, it was considered a victorious day. And, heartbreakingly, when Sam's fellow cult members learned that he had ended Blaze's life, they commemorated it as though it were a holiday. This was due to Blaze's recent decision to publicly acknowledge his homosexuality, and he was also a committed participant in the Jewish community. Essentially, he represented the ideal victim. After law enforcement uncovered these details about Blaze, they knew with certainty that Sam bore responsibility. But here's the surprising element, a revelation if you prefer. When investigators examined Sam's cellular device and personal items, they discovered something that genuinely caught them off guard. Sam was grappling with his own sexual identity as well. The investigators uncovered proof of Sam accessing homosexual dating platforms and even consuming vast quantities of homosexual adult material, the identical material that the cult found revolting. Investigators additionally discovered communications between Sam and Blaze, and Sam's manner of writing was decidedly flirtatious. This revelation added another complex dimension to Blaze's situation. It appeared that Sam struggled to accept his sexual orientation, and witnessing Blaze so transparent, authentic, and thriving, while being someone who experienced attraction to men, could have been the source of envy and bitterness in Sam's psyche. Sam couldn't publicly identify as gay. Because of his cult affiliation, he would literally face execution by the organization he belonged to for experiencing attraction to men. Law. Enforcement believes that Sam attempted desperately to repress his desires and sexual identity, but observing the dramatic difference of Blaze's existence made him feel wretched and furious. The aspect of this entire scenario that fails to make any logical sense to me is, if he genuinely was homosexual throughout, what motivated him to join the cult initially? An obvious counterargument would be he simply desired a place where he could belong, but Sam didn't belong, not remotely. The singular characteristic he shared with these individuals was his identity as an angry, resentful individual. I can comprehend that confronting your own sexual identity is frightening, but none of this follows any rational pattern. It appeared that Sam had created his own predicament by joining the cult and suppressing his sexuality, and all of that accumulated hostility, frustration, and fury ultimately erupted, and Blaze was compelled to suffer the consequences. An innocent individual who wouldn't harm anyone. Sam ultimately faced charges of murder, utilization of a lethal weapon, and hate crime enhancements. He entered a plea of not guilty to every charge, despite DNA evidence recovered from Sam's vehicle and residence demonstrating that he was responsible for ending Blaze's life. Sam's automobile, along with the knife employed against Blaze, which was recovered from Sam's residence, contained Blaze's DNA throughout. The primary obstacle for the prosecution wasn't establishing whether Sam murdered Blaze or not. He absolutely did. It was establishing whether it qualified as a hate crime or not. The defense team advocated for voluntary manslaughter charges, which, if accepted, would result in Sam potentially gaining parole eventually. The prosecution conversely remained insistent that the crime was calculated, premeditated, intentional, and motivated by hatred, and they were pursuing life imprisonment without parole eligibility. The journey to justice would prove lengthy because, amid all of this, the COVID-19 pandemic occurred, and the trial faced postponement repeatedly. The Bernstein family grew exhausted by the continuous delays, and they simply desired justice to be delivered. They refused to wait and continue existing in the sorrow and pain of what occurred to their son. They wanted the killer to face punishment, and for this horrific ordeal to conclude. By the time Sam finally stood trial, the date was April of 2024. The Bernstein family endured 6 lengthy, exhausting years to finally bring their son's case to trial and hold the perpetrator accountable. Following 6 years after Blaze's murder, numerous circumstances have transformed, and I'm not exclusively referring to COVID-19 protocols and societal adjustments. Sam's appearance had changed dramatically. His hair had grown extraordinarily long and unkempt, extending completely to his shoulders. His fingernails had grown excessively long, and he maintained a very silent and withdrawn demeanor, certain. Observers noted that Sam bore an uncanny resemblance to Charles Manson, who was similarly a close-minded killer and an overall worthless human being, but his destructive legacy is a subject for another time. But I will mention this. Charles Manson actually received adoration from Sam's cult. That fact alone reveals volumes, but eventually the trial commenced, and the prosecution displayed all of the evidence against Sam. His participation with Atomwaffen division, his internal struggle regarding his sexuality, his romantic interest in Blaze, and his status as the final individual to observe Blaze alive. The prosecution's position was founded on the premise that Sam understood that he experienced attraction to men as well, but observing how homosexuality was perceived and how the cult shaped him in all the destructive ways left Sam feeling enraged toward Blaze, who was simultaneously Jewish and openly homosexual. He couldn't tolerate witnessing Blaze living his existence contentedly and avoiding judgment from others, and this motivated Sam to end his life callously. He possessed the murder weapon with him, and Sam had orchestrated everything in advance when he enticed Blaze out on the evening of January 2nd. The defense contended that Sam was simply a misinterpreted young individual who struggled with mental health problems and lacked social abilities. But circumstances truly shifted when the defense introduced a rather shocking position. They asserted that whatever had occurred to Blaze, he had essentially caused it himself. Allow me to elaborate. Essentially, the defense maintained that on the evening of Blaze's killing, Sam was consuming illegal substances. Sam felt extremely disoriented, and everything seemed foggy, but he clearly recalled Blaze retrieving his phone, filming Sam, and attempting to make unwanted physical advances. Sam felt embarrassed and repulsed by Blaze's behavior. You see, Sam was brought up as a conservative Catholic, therefore, although he recognized that he experienced attraction to men. He didn't want others to discover this, and Blaze documenting this entire situation, well, that simply couldn't be permitted. I suppose belonging to a violent, people-despising, and murderous cult was permissible for Sam, but accepting his sexual identity was not. Logic has abandoned the conversation, but returning to the vehicle, Sam explained that Blaze supposedly threatened to reveal Sam and his sexuality using a compromising photograph, and at that moment, Sam felt cornered. He perceived no escape route, and he retrieved a retractable pocket knife, which he habitually carried since his time as a Boy Scout, and continued attacking Blaze until he ceased resisting. It was such a horrifying moment for Blaze's family to witness their son receiving blame for what happened to him, and that somehow he bore responsibility, left everyone absolutely stunned. To be honest, no compromising photograph of Sam was ever located on Blaze's phone, so we can confidently conclude that Sam was fabricating all of this. He was deceiving everyone to preserve himself. He would attempt anything except acknowledge that he felt attracted to men and that he experienced conflicting emotions about his romantic interests. But by July 2024, everyone awaited the decision. Was Sam responsible for a brutal hate crime, or was he going to escape with the manslaughter charge? Following the jury's deliberations, the decision was announced. Sam Woodward was found responsible for the first-degree murder of Blaze Bernstein as a hate crime. 4 months subsequently, in November 2024, Sam received a sentence of life imprisonment without parole eligibility. The trial of Sam Woodward was more than simply a murder trial. It marked the initiation of a new movement against hate crimes for victims in the identical circumstances as Blaze. Blaze's mother and father, Gideon and Jean, made the decision to channel all of their anguish and grief into a more significant purpose. They established Blaze It Forward, a kindness initiative which serves as a safe haven for individuals of all sexual orientations and for promoting positivity. Borrego Park, the chilling location where Blaze's existence was terminated, has transformed into a memorial of significance. Countless colorful stones bearing uplifting and consoling messages for Blaze and his family adorn the section where Blaze's body was discovered. The Bernstein family expresses tremendous gratitude for the support they received from complete strangers throughout these lengthy and painful years, and they find peace knowing that Blaze is commemorated precisely as he deserves to be, for his warmth and for his smile. His existence may have ended prematurely, but his parents have guaranteed that his influence and his love will persist long, long beyond his departure, in vibrancy, luminosity, and warmth. The Bernstein family maintains the conviction that nobody should face punishment or judgment for whom they love. Progressing forward appears very simple, and occasionally Blaze's parents can manage with his memories, but significant healing still lies ahead for them. I believe it's self-evident that simply because you disagree with another person, it doesn't grant you permission to commit murder. Experiencing disagreements about lifestyles, beliefs, whatever it might be, that's inherent to existence. This type of conflict has, without exaggeration, existed since humanity's beginning. Throughout thousands of years, people have debated what lifestyle is optimal, but the reality is, the optimal lifestyle is one built on mutual respect. I don't need to agree with your actions, your words, or your chosen way of living. It's your existence, not mine. I should absolutely possess every right to express my perspectives, and you, yours. But neither perspective possesses the authority or the justification to override how another person chooses to live their existence. All we can accomplish is concentrate on our own thinking, our own behaviors, and where we aspire to be ultimately. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you'll always be the first to know when we release a new true crime documentary. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so take a moment to leave a respectful comment below. Your engagement helps the channel grow and motivates us to keep creating more in-depth, well-researched content that our audience loves. Every view, like, and comment counts, and your support truly makes a difference. It's because of viewers like you that we can continue producing content that informs, intrigues, and keeps the conversation going. Thank you again for being here, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.